I'm gonna get skewered for that one. Lemon. Lemon water.
Do we still know how to do this?
I don't know. Welcome back to Life Lessons in Film.
Hello.
It has been a hot minute since we saw you guys last. It's been a while, and we figured what better way to get back into the swing of things than with like a quiz. You're going to be asking me a bunch of mystery questions about movies. As someone who is a self-identified cinephile, I hope I'm up to the task.
Do we start?
I'm ready. I think, yeah.
Okay. Question 1.
Okay.
Why do I have to fight so hard for a cuddle when we're watching a Tom Hardy movie?
Oh, I didn't know these were going to be so provocative. Bitter. Well, it's because there's a priority to things. And unfortunately, cuddling with my boo, just sometimes it doesn't. It squeaks over Tom Hardy, but sometimes it feels like, you know, there's a particularly good Tom Hardy movie on, and his eyes. I can't stop looking at his eyes. It doesn't help that, like, you know, a lot of his films, he really has to act through his eyes because of, you know, whatever restraints, but he's so good at it. And that's why I think they cover him up.
As I terrorize Gotham, I will feed its people hope to poison their souls. I will let them believe that they can survive so that you can watch them clambering over each other to stay in the sun.
Yeah, he's down for the count. For this leader, 1 bandit down. For this leader, do you read?
You want that thing off your face?
I connect to him, and one day I'd like to meet him, because I feel like most other famous people or idols or people that you look up to, it's not a good idea to meet them, because they either let you down or you let them down, or mutually let down. With him, I can't explain it. I connect in a way that I connect rarely with other actors or other people. So sometimes the cuddling kind of falls by the wayside until you graciously remind me, hello, this is what we're doing here. Back to the cuddle. Then you bring me back to reality and to the things that are important in life. But that's why sometimes I get derailed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's see. Next question. Which movie made you reassess your life, relationships, ideas, or anything? How and why?
There are a lot of movies that I think really had a profound impact on me. I think like an excerpt from Orwell's 1984 when he's reading the secret book, and how he's saying why he likes the secret book so much is that he knows all the stuff in this book already intuitively, but he couldn't articulate it. He couldn't bring it to the conscious level. And so I think for me, there are certain movies that would touch on things that I kind of felt but couldn't properly put into words or couldn't properly, you know, explain on my own. There are certain movies, like I'd say basically any Woody Allen movie, touches on like interpersonal relationships and dysfunction in those relationships in a way that feels so real to me. It was like, yes, this is how people are in the real world. And it was very refreshing, especially because I felt like I wasn't really getting a lot of that around the people that I grew up around, even though I felt like that's kind of really more reality, was how people are, you know, actually voice their issues with each other, and they maybe don't work them out, but there's tension and there's conflict, and it's good, and that's how you move and that's how you grow. So I could just list any of his movies in terms of like, yes, right? That's how people are more, actually.
Well, what are you doing tomorrow? We're driving to Versailles. Versailles.
Oh, I'm dying to see Versailles.
Yeah.
But it's I think we're tomorrow we're locked into a lunch at Brasserie Leap.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. That it's already. You know, I actually had a professor that dined there and saw James Joyce. Yeah, you know, like a million years ago, and apparently Joyce was eating sauerkraut and frankfurters.
That's the end of the story.
And the way that I grew up was kind of a weird, kind of unnatural suppression of humanity. Harry Potter was kind of interesting for me because I didn't go to school growing up until later, and so those movies are basically, a lot of it is just people going to school when they're kids. So I got to kind of like experience school through like a fun supernatural way, which I feel like is, you know, school would have been a lot better when you're really just learning how to do spells and throw people around the room. But I got to kind of experience a lot of like the drama. Like I always found that stuff interesting, like people having their first crushes and their first friend breakups and their first navigating that as kids. It's amazing that we make kids go through that because that's horrible. I mean, there's no guidance. Everyone is just little kids hurting each other, trying to figure out how to be better humans.
Which movie did you initially view? No! You're not supposed to talk!
I'm sorry.
Which movie did you initially view as an inaccurate depiction of life, but later changed your mind, and why?
I think probably it was just like learning about more complexity in how humans are, where sometimes they really can be like no hint of a dark side or kind of a potential for backstabbery. Then later on, they're just like, your life changes and now they're not kind anymore. So movies, I guess, that can actually tackle that complexity and nuance within people, I'd be like, oh, I can go back and be like, I can relate a lot more to this movie than I could before. When I was a kid, I would just go along with whatever decisions a character would make. And I'd just be like, okay, you know, I guess that's what they're doing now. I think I can relate more now to Lord of the Rings. A lot of the stuff with like addiction, everyone's obsessed about the ring and fighting over the ring, and then it makes them feel so good at first, that feeling like, I have it. And then it kind of goes away, or even just the relationship between the human characters, Denethor, Boromir, and then his brother Faramir. And I couldn't understand when I was younger, I think, why Denethor just hated Faramir and he loved Boromir. Of his two sons, one he just despised and he wanted dead, basically, and the other one couldn't do any wrong. I just didn't really understand as a kid. I was like, I guess he just had favoritism. I guess, you know, Boromir, I think, is the eldest. He just got attached, and then Faramir, he just felt like couldn't live up to it. But I really never understood how someone can just kind of be like that, and Denethor's character makes a lot more sense to me now.
How someone can be like what?
Be so in support of one kid, say, and then be always so against the other kid, always fighting the other kid, and always making the other kid feel like they're not worthy, and they're not deserving.
You wish now that our places had been exchanged, that I had died and Boromir had lived. I wish that. If I should return, think better of me, Father.
That will depend on the manner of your return.
Now I'm like, oh no, yeah, there are just plenty of people like that. It's a realistic, cruel father depiction.
Does Disney deserve Star Wars?
No. Next question.
Okay.
They don't. I don't know what to tell you. It was an independently owned company. Star Wars movies were basically just massive indie films. If you talk about most definitions of independent films, it's basically just like mostly, if not totally, funded by, you know, not through a big, you know, movie studio, which they were. And that's why there was so much more originality and control for George Lucas and everyone else working with him. There was a lot more creative control and a lot more stuff that you can put into a movie of that scale that you just couldn't do going through a big studio where they're more worried about, we got to get buttons and seats and stuff. So if I was able to ask George Lucas any question, I'd be like, I get that maybe you felt like you needed someone to take it off your hands. None of your kids wanted to inherit it or something, but why? You should have known Disney was going to run it into the ground and they were just going to milk it and ruin it. I don't know. He seems to be getting vindicated now. So I guess you wait long enough and things work out, but it's still kind of, no, they don't. No, short answer, no, they don't. They do not.
They do
One
not.
iota, they do not. Oh, hi, Mark.
I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Which movie did you never in a million years expect to like, but you did? And why?
I'd say it was probably like a rom-com that I think I just, you know what, I'd say maybe like The Notebook, Brokeback Mountain, The Notebook. Another one, Lost in Translation. That was more my family just being, I don't know, they had issues with it. So there were a couple movies that I just kind of got, predisposed to not like. But I'm also someone that's always going to try something, and I always want to get my own opinion on everything. So I have watched all those movies. I've liked all of them, actually.
So you didn't like these movies, or you didn't expect to like them because of what people's opinion of them?
Yeah, just from people that I'd be around that would talk about it. Be like, that movie sucks, so don't go see that movie. And then I would still, because I still want to get my own opinion. I was like, these people are on something. They're on something stinky, because this is fine. I like this. There was one that came.
But in terms of your own individual independent assessment, not based off of how other people perceive
right,
the movie.
like I just saw a trailer or something, or I just judged it from the cover or something.
Yeah, or maybe the actors or the plot. You just didn't have any high expectations.
I liked Freddy Got Fingered more than I think I expected, which was the Tom Green movie. I would see it all the time in Blockbuster. Video flicks, where I was from, and I'd see it and I'm like, this must just be a dumb movie. And I mean, it's not a dumb movie, but I enjoyed it more when I finally came around to watching it. I'd always just disregard it before. So yeah.
Why did you disregard it?
It's a weird front cover of him making an L7 thing, I think, and it's a weird angle, and it's zoomed in on his head kind of thing, and I didn't know Tom Green at the time. I later became a huge fan of his, but at the time I was like, this looks just bad quality, poor taste, cheap. Although it could be argued that it is those things, I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it a fair bit.
So why did you end up enjoying it?
Because I watched it because I became a Tom Green fan, and later on I ended up discovering his stand-up and his show and podcast, and so I began to appreciate what he was about. And so when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, this is like Tom Green the movie.
What in the name of sweet breakfast meats are you doing?
For your information, this is me being creative. Betty told me this is what I need to do in order to become an artist.
It's not the best movie ever made, but I appreciated it.
Please.
I don't know any of them. I don't know any of them. You already asked the one that I accidentally peeked at.
Okay, all right. George Lucas and Werner Herzog are trapped in a house fire.
Oh no.
But you can only save one person.
Oh no.
Who do you save and why?
If you're looking at someone who is still actively making movies and still having an impact in terms of, Werner Herzog is still making movies and he's still kind of active and he's still doing important stuff, bringing awareness through his movies and bringing thought-provoking observations and things that it's important for humanity to focus on and think about through his movies.
Wir brauchen ganz unbedingt Bilder, die mit unserem Zivilisationsstand und mit unserem Inneren allertiefsten übereinstimmen.
But when it comes to my childhood me, I would pick George Lucas in a heartbeat because he basically created probably about 80% of my childhood directly or indirectly. And I don't know, I mean, maybe he's still going to do something. Maybe there's still something else in him.
Outside of the fact that Werner Herzog is still active.
Yeah, I mean, he also makes great movies, and I love him as a person. I think he's one of the most truly brave people. I think you can put these descriptions of courageous and brave and those kinds of things, willing to face death. He's truly one of the most remarkable people in how he pursues his art. Yeah, he's very committed, and he's so consumed by his movies and his art, and he's willing to just confuse people or be outrageous in a way, but not in a way that I find self-indulgent.
So who do you say?
I'm not sure.
Depends on the day. I don't know. Depends on how I'm feeling, really. Depends on what I just watched.
It's too hard.
Yeah, it's too hard.
Which character in a movie got you thinking, do I need a mentor?
There's many growing up. Definitely, generally, long-haired, bearded, magical men were some that I would usually connected with. The old wizard archetype, I guess. Gandalf, Dumbledore, Qui-Gon. I always liked Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Again, kind of like a long-haired, wizardy man. He was very eccentric, but very comfortable in his eccentricity, and I always liked that. Willing to pursue his passions, even if he seemed like a madman to everyone else.
I see you
No.
peeping.
He's a peeping Tom.
Which is one of your most unpopular movie-related opinions?
I very much loathed, I abhorred, detested even, The Force Awakens when it first came out. Even when it seemed like a lot of people losing their minds, I thought it was poop from the get-go. A lot of people have kind of now shifted to that way of thinking, now that they've seen the movies that came after it, and just in general they've had time to think. I didn't need time to think. I thought it was poop. I was always poop. Sorry to be that guy, but I just always, I walked out of the theaters and I was shocked at how just not good I found it. I don't get enough out of Wes Anderson movies to find it worth my while.
What?
I just don't. I've tried. Life would be easier if I did, but I don't. I think there's an escapism there. There's some elements that people can get things out of. I just find it, talk about self-indulgent. I find it self-indulgent, and I don't find that he grows enough as an artist for me. I don't find he pushes himself to the limits and beyond, like I like in my favorite directors and actors. And I don't find he does that. He's probably fun to work with, and it's probably a chill set, but as someone who wants to be an audience member, I don't get to experience that. I need more. And I'm sorry, but I think vastly overrated. That's probably my hottest take. I kind of like The Dark Knight Rises more than The Dark Knight. I'm gonna get skewered for that one. I love The Dark Knight as well. The Dark Knight Rises, because Tom Hardy's in it. No shade against Heath Ledger.
No.
I mean, there's a reason why people to this day are still obsessed with his Joker.
I like this job. I like it.
But I don't know. Dark Knight Rises for me, there's something about it that I find I find it more rewatchable. I can't explain why. I would understand completely if people disagreed.
Admirable, but mistaken.
And I think rewatchability for me is a big component of overall, enjoyment for me of a movie. So yeah, I think that's blame me in the comments with that one.
Red pill or blue pill? And was Cypher right that Morpheus didn't actually tell them the truth?
I understand the blue pill. I understand why I understand Cypher.
Why, oh why didn't I take the blue pill?
You see too much, and if you're a certain kind of person, you're like, I just can't. I can't see it and not unsee it and still carry on the struggle or carry on the fight or just carry on in general. I get it, but I think in general, living in whatever truth means, living in as much personal truth, I suppose, is more important for everyone to pursue.
But that's relative too, right?
It is relative, but I guess you could say the red pill, in the movie, it kind of wakes everyone up to a universal reality or objective reality. You could look at it as like it's everyone's own individual personal truth that it wakes people up to. If you want to look at it that way, I'd still say that if there's a good meaning of life to point towards, it's pursuing your own personal truth. So
and was he right about Morpheus not telling them the truth? Because as far as he's concerned, he's like, yeah, you told us some... I think Cypher thinks Morpheus kind of embellished or...
Yeah.
Or left out some details, basically, on what the reality meant.
Some of the gritty details.
Yeah, because he's like, you didn't give us solid enough...
If you were going to mention...
A solid enough take on what the reality was. Yeah. Because if you had, miss me.
Yeah, you might not... Zion would be a little smaller, be quite a bit smaller, perhaps.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking, like...
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean... It's similar to Obi-Wan kind of misleading Luke, lying to him in a way from a certain point of view in order for a greater purpose of like, he might not have gone on the path he needed to had he had all the information. Maybe he wouldn't have taken the first steps that ultimately were the good steps to take. Same thing with Neo. Maybe omitting a couple things here and there. It's kind of a judgment call, and he could be put on trial for it afterwards, but overall, he felt that lying a tad, some white lies in the moment were perhaps justified if it meant that Neo was willing to give it a shot, because he believed in Neo. The prophecy told him that Neo was the one. So you're going to take a chance, and you know
Admit
what?
A few things.
You can put the scales of justice on when the time comes and see where they fall, judging Morpheus then. But I think overall, he made the right call. it's never an easy call to make. In fact, this actually kind of happens a lot in movies I enjoy. I think Harry Potter had a similar thing where Dumbledore, again, kind of left out a couple key things for Harry. You know, maybe mentioning that, like, you and your sworn enemy, Voldemort, you can't really just take him out so easily without killing yourself. That's a hard thing to swallow at first, especially, like, how old do you find out about this stuff? How experienced and confident in your abilities before you have to get the whole truth. I think there is something to be said about letting the person develop into their own in terms of their confidence of whatever their powers are and their ability to handle life before they get all the information, which is maybe something you should do about life in general. It's like, don't tell kids about all the gritty details. Let them slowly kind of be able to handle it, not all at once.
So personally for you,
I think
red pill or... Yeah, you
Red pill, and I think Morpheus did do the right thing. I understand you could feel like you were lied to, especially if you just really hate being living in reality. You could be a little bitter, fair enough. I don't know if, like, then killing everybody, unplugging Morpheus and all that, and selling them out to Mr. Smith, I think that is still worse than omitting a couple things.
Which movie quote has always stuck with you, and why?
I always find Gladiator is some of the most quotable.
Are you not entertained?
The reason I always kind of like Banksy is because he's a Gladiator fan. And I feel like if you're, making like $1 million, graffiti art because you got to that point of notoriety and one of yours is quoting Gladiator, see, I think I just understand that person. Maybe other people feel like he's a fraud or, oh, he's overrated. I think I just understand this person. It's okay. And we all understand different people. Some people are not on your wavelength. Some people are not. They're just not going to connect. But I like that Banksy quotes Gladiator. I think the one he did was "What we do in life echoes in eternity." It's a great quote. I like when the one politician, Gracchus, that's his name.
I don't often see you enjoying the pleasures of the vulgar crowd.
I don't pretend to be a man of the people, Senator. But I do try to be a man for the people.
And I like that too, because he's one of the more honest politicians, where he's not perfect, but there's an acceptance there of the reality that, unfortunately, if you're in a position where, especially a position of privilege or a certain special position, but you still find yourself wanting to help other people, there can be a lot of barriers in the way that really keep you from truly feeling in common and at peace with that group of people. But you can still do your best to try and help where you can. And I think that happens a lot. I think there's a lot of people wanting to do good things and wanting to help, but it's tough when it comes to having to then relate to other people that you can only really relate so far on, because there's so many little things that can either annoy you or put barriers in front of you with them and you, and it just makes it hard to remember that we're all having a human experience and we're all trying our best and cut people some slack and listen to them and have them listen to you. So I like that. There's tons of great quotes in that movie.
State one movie fact that's always fascinated you.
There's some interesting stuff around the movie The Fugitive, which, by the way, if there's any underrated movie, and maybe it's not underrated, maybe everyone loves that movie. There was like this thing where during the original theatrical cut or something of the movie, at one point after the train wreck, there's like this person on set that wasn't supposed to be there that's just kind of in the corner, and no one knew who the person was, and they disappeared and they couldn't track them down. I think in later editions of the movie, they like edited them out, but like there was just this person there looking at the set, like the scene being filmed. Mystery person. Nobody ever knew. And you think like it's hard to sneak on. I mean, it was probably like a wilderness set, so they filmed on location, so I guess easy enough to kind of sneak in. People just assume, oh, they must be someone working on, might just be sneaking around. But I think to this day, never explained who that person was. I think it's still kind of a fascinating, unsolved mystery.
Oh yeah, the last one? Okay. Name one of the actors you ruminate the most about and discuss your theories about how they might be as a person versus a brand, or what their backstory might be.
I think Joaquin Phoenix I think a fair bit about, because I believe I learned that he came from like a cult or something. There was some kind of commune he grew up on, him and his brother. I don't know if they had to like escape or if they just, consentingly pursued, moved to Hollywood after and were allowed to do so. Still kind of an obscure, kind of strange upbringing. I do think of him a lot, I guess, when it comes to interviews, because Joaquin can really operate so much in the system and Hollywood and things, and do big movies, like Joker, and yet he can just go on interviews, not have to care at all about being funny for the camera and being entertaining for the audience. Like, he's just grumpy and quiet.
Those interviews sometimes really are intrusive, and
they're intrusive or they're just daft. Like, one in the main interview was like, so you look pretty healthy now weight-wise, but you were really skinny in that movie. He's like, yeah, I filmed that like 6 months ago. You know, like he's kind of like, you work in this industry. Why are you asking these questions? You know, that kind of thing. It's like, you should know this, you know? So he's more than anyone else, it seems like his agent or people that work with him or whatever just get like, yeah, you know what? He somehow transcends the need to keep up like that kind of entertaining, clean appearance for the audience so that he can keep getting movie roles or something. He's transcended that, which I find very interesting. And I kind of do want to know like how some actors can get to that point, but I do find him interesting. The people, Adrian Brody, I think someone to be the youngest person to ever win an Oscar. How do you keep going after that? I think it arguably maybe did affect him, because then I think he tried things like being part of that Sham Wow Guys movie just to challenge himself. Like, can I actually make this work at all? I watched that movie actually because I was curious, the fact that Adrian Brody was in the Sham Wow Guys movie. And the movie was terrible. Maybe one of the worst movies I've ever seen, maybe besides The Last Jedi. Yeah, I'd rather watch a ShamWow movie again than The Last Jedi. But yeah, because like it wasn't just lame, crude jokes. It was just boring. The scenes would go on, nothing would happen. It was so boring and so confusing. It's like, you're the ShamWow guy. I thought your whole thing is like snappy kind of infomercial stuff. What are you doing? He was going for a much more like subdued feel. I think it was just bad. The part that Adrian Brody was in, maybe it was the best part, but.
Go ahead. Make me gay.
I don't know what he was doing exactly with that, so that was an interesting. But I appreciate again that he is pushing himself. So I do still wonder, you know, like why, you know, things like that. Why would you do that? And how do you recover from being the youngest Oscar winner? How do you go from The Pianist and still find projects that inspire you and make you want to keep doing stuff and getting up in the morning? So I wonder about that. But what did you guys think?
On my thoughts?
On the answers that were given. Were they ludicrous? Or were they absolutely, oh, yes, someone said it. Oh, let us know.
In the comments.
Let us know in the comments down below. Share your thoughts.
On
my thoughts.
On movies.
On movies.
How would you answer these questions?
Yeah,
how would you answer the questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let us know. Until next time, though, thanks for watching. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself. I feel good. Knew that I would. I feel good. Okay. Until next time, thanks for watching. That's right.
Bye.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.